Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. No, it's been a while. Welcome back, of course, to another episode of Honest Conversations with Mo, the Mo Love podcast. As I said, yeah, it's definitely been a while. So let's just go right ahead and jump right into it. And for this episode, I want to jump into talking about what does a friendship entail, and when looking at kind of what a friendship entails is how are we not only building kind of our network and the people that we consider our friends, but also what does that really kind of look like, and how are we putting ourselves out there in terms of our friendship, because I think oftentimes when it comes to friendships, just like with anything, of course, it requires sacrifice, and I think it's important to note how you're building, those necessary relationships, and um, the people that of course, you can consider your friends, especially close friends, is very important, and especially in whatever environment, whether it's you know um, kind of how you establish those friends. Is it during childhood, and you guys have maintained you know that relationship throughout all those years, or if it's a new friendship that's sparked based off of interests and likes. So I think it's very important to kind of really understand kind of what does one kind of how does that friendship kind of begin, and two, what does it entail, what are you willing to give up uh, for the sake of a friend. I think sometimes when we look at friendships, sometimes we feel like it has to be this kind of groupthink mindset, but I don't think that's true friendship. If are creating, these friendship groups of, kind of just, yes men and individuals that just, think like you. I think true friendships are those that kind of challenge you and kind of allow you to kind of think differently and see different perspectives, and understand the world differently as well. I think it's very important when you're developing your friendships that you're you're not only challenging yourself, but you're challenging that person you call a friend, and challenging them to get better and be better, and be honest with them, and kind of develop that necessary relationship, because friendship is a two-way street, and for someone as self that never considered myself to you know be a great friend, just only because I'd say that because I'm very much I keep myself at a distance from people, but I've also been able to understand and learn you know that I can still keep myself at a distance when needed, and still kind of have that independence and isolation, and that the right people will stick around, because those right individuals will be those real friends, regardless of the mood that you're in, or kind of how you feeling, or no matter how long it's been since you guys have talked. I can even say one of my close friends since middle school, and supporting his brand right now. Shout out to Domineer Clothing, the Final Voyage. Go ahead and get that. But I just think of even like our relationship, in the sense of where it was obviously real close, as kids and things like that, but also still being able to maintain that friendship throughout the years, where it doesn't have to be constant communication. It doesn't have to be constant engagement. It could be those check-ins, but that you still have that real connection with with that individual. And I think of just even my friends of who I do have those constant connections with, and how are we building and getting better, and creating the positive mindsets to better ourselves, and get better on a day-to-day basis. I think that's the fundamental, like, kind of important aspect of friendships is, are the people you're surrounding yourself with really not only wanting the best for you, but seeing you get better. And, we talk about, obviously those, you're going to obviously lose friends or acquaintances, throughout life. That's natural. That's a natural progression, in the world. But I think those that you are willing to keep around you that understand the true depth of who you are is vital and is very important. And I think going back to the point of needing that ability to see you grow and are willing to challenge you to grow is very important. And it's not just those who are just honest with you, but those who are willing to question when you're being dishonest with yourself. And I think that's an important aspect too. um so I think that's a real kind of importance with you know friendships, and kind of how you build those necessary communities to kind of get better for yourself. And also, kind of, as I say for myself, I say, like I'm very, antisocial, socialite, as I always, kind of refer to myself. And to know that, you know, I do my best to, keep, a small circle, but, keep the right people, whether it is, family friends, or, close friends, or, friends for years. It's just important that, keeping the right people and the right people in your circle, or friends that you meet, through brief, circumstances, or, situations, whether, it's work, professionally, or, getting connected, through other people that, within your other friend groups. So I think it's very important to realize how you're really developing these friendships. And I think that comes from, you know, the power of, observability, in the sense of, you know, what are you taking in from, these friendships, and learning to really, not only better yourself, but better the world around you, better the people around you. And I think when we're really, really observing the world around us, and really taking in kind of the the challenges of our reality, whether it's your day-to-day reality, or just the the challenges within the world, that we see on a daily basis, it's important to kind of understand what are we taking in from that, and how are we developing from that. I think is very vital and very important. And then also ties into also with the social proof aspect of what are you taking in? Are you just, in the sense of social proof, are you just doing the things that, those, call your friends, you catch yourself doing, or are you still maintaining that, that sense of independence, and still, making those necessary decisions. And of course, I think with social proof, as we know, is, the things that, the people around us do. And, we have a inkling to, kind of do the same thing, whether it's, uh, for example, growing up, in a household where, it's, one, dominant team, or, a team such as, like, let's say, the Cowboys, or the Lakers, or the Yankees, and that becomes, rite of passage, in a sense of, that's social proof. And when it comes to, friends, and you see, friends out here, buying, different things, are we more inclined to, buy those things just to, fit in within our social groups, and within our friendships, just to feel, not to feel less alienated in that sense. And I think when we're really being mindful of the things that we're taking in from others, to tie back, to the observability piece, that it's important to kind of see, like, hey, are you taking this in because, hey, this aligns with kind of who you are? Or are you taking this in because, hey, somebody else did it? And I mean, as we know, it's very common, get, recommendations from, other people and things of that nature. But I think it's also vitally important to, kind of make that holistic decision, and kind of make that decision for yourself, and be kind of that self-reliant, navigator of your own journey, and not, kind of get caught up in that social proof aspect, and kind of going back to, kind of that group thinking process as well. And then lastly, I just want to touch on you know, how, community is that, that new currency, that communal aspect of the people around us is so vital and so important, especially in this day and age, with social media, where we're seeing, social networks pop up constantly that, people are able to develop, these different communities and these different, ways of engagement that you can, build and, connect with others from. And then also, you know, how community can also propel you in, so many ways, in terms of, hey, you never know the community that you develop that can help you, find your next, career path, or, help find, the love of your life. And I think it's very important that developing that community is not only integral and very important to be mindful of, but also how are you utilizing that currency? Are you really being mindful of, being a connector, even if that's not necessarily kind of who you are, but are you still, doing your best to take advantage of your community, whether that's, on Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, professionally, or if it's just, day to day, how your interactions with people, because you never know, how that can go, such a long way. Because, like I said, especially in this day and age now, community is that new currency, and it can take you so far. And I think, obviously, we often hear, especially, professionally, it's not who you know, or it's not what you know, it's who you know. And you see that so prevalently, and how you can get that next role in your career, or how you can kind of, not only that, just kind of advance and progress in your career, just in those, whether it's, those brief interactions you may have had with a colleague that connected you to someone else, or it might have been, you being able to, you know, bless the stage at a conference or something of the sorts, and, being able to, kind of speak to, to someone that maybe, you never would meet. So I think it's very important that we kind of are mindful in, kind of our communities, and kind of how we're utilizing, this new, kind of currency, in terms of how we're developing ourselves and developing the world around us. And then jumping in, we're gonna do a quick rapid fire because it's just been such a while. Of course, we'll do a quick rapid fire of the next few topics, and as we, shift gears. But quick rapid fire, obviously starting off with the WNBA finals. In terms of, like I said, I know it's been this long since we've had an episode, but in terms of with the WNBA finals, of course, the Las Vegas Aces, won, defeated the Phoenix Mercury 4-1, winning their third title in, was it 5 years? 4 years, third or five? I can't exactly, but obviously the start of a new dynasty out there in Vegas, led by AJ Wilson. Three chips. They dominated Phoenix, and it was incredible to see. And we'll see if they can, repeat next year. Obviously, as we'll see with the turmoil that is going to be the CBA negotiations that are, getting ready to start soon. As we head into, the new league year. Within the W, so that's gonna be interesting. But once again, congrats to the Aces on, winning, another, WNBA championship, and being world champions again, and cooking it. They balled out that series, for sure. And then jumping into the next, of course, champions, the champions of Los Angeles, the Dodgers, and the champions of the World Series, of course, in the LA Dodgers, defeating. Oh, wow. Wow. It was just that whirlwind of a series that I am literally blanking on who they defeated the Toronto Blue Jays in 7 games. Because it was just such a incredible series. Game 6, uh the trap call to Game 7, where oh man, if Will Smith doesn't have his foot on home plate, Blue Jays win. So I think just shout out to the Dodgers on an incredible series and another, of course, incredible season. Being world champs again, back to back world champs. First time since the Yankees in a minute. I can't remember the exact time, but obviously the last ones were the Yankees. I want to say it was 97, 98. But shout out to the Dodgers, of course, winning the World Series. And bringing another championship back to LA. And with that, of course, with the NBA back and started, hoping the Lakers do the same. Looking good. Obviously we've been without LeBron all season thus far. 10-4, looking incredible as the NBA season has been rapidly in full swing in the first kind of uh 14, 15 games across the league. Of course, the Thunder looking like they're trying to go for Golden State's 73-9 record back in 2016 as they're balling out. I want to say they're 12-1 or 13-1. Remember their exact record, but they've been balling out. The Spurs have been looking good. Detroit, led by Cade Cunningham, have been balling. Atlanta, I think the East is very wide open. Atlanta has been nice. Obviously, Milwaukee's, trying to figure things out. They're still decent. Obviously, Lakers blew them out last night. Huge win there. But across the league, who's else been a surprising teams? Oh, who else? I mean, Magic's been looking good. Um, Portland's been surprising. Chicago's been nice, but I think they're starting to kind of teeter off as well. Phoenix has been on a run. I think they're on a 5-game winning streak right now. Um, Nikola Jokic is unstoppable, and he just is insane. Just consistently averaging a triple double out there in Denver. And yeah, the champs are looking like the champs, and they're going to be tough to beat in OKC. But hoping my Lakers do it. Like I said, been looking good without LeBron. We missed, looking for a few games where AR picked up the slack and Austin Reeves. And just the overall team's been looking good. Aiton's been, taking in his role. Was happy to see Adu Thero, make his season debut last night, playing solid. Obviously in limited minutes. But overall, despite our injuries, 10-4, I am ecstatic. Loving it out here in LA, and loving what the Lakers are looking like. Like I said, Austin Reeves is averaging 28 right now. Luka's 34. Ian's playing consistent. Marcus Smart, when available, has been a defensive stalwart. Laravia has its up and downs. Ruby's been a consistent shooter. I want to say shooting very consistent, obviously 50 plus across most games, but I want to say like 50 around like 48 to 50% from three. So been our consistent 3-pointer shooter for sure, but Lakers looking good. I'm excited as we continue to ball out and get the season figured out. And then next on to the NFL, and definitely been a while since I caught y'all up on the NFL. Obviously, my Falcons look atrocious. Lost another heartbreaker at home against the Panthers, 30-27 in overtime. Another game that we had the lead, had the chance, and just couldn't capitalize and couldn't finish it off. Obviously, offense continues to sputter in the second half, and it just does not look good in Atlanta. But obviously Penix got hurt earlier today in the third. Had to close out with Kirk Cousins, Kirk O'Chains, and Kirk O'Chains couldn't do it either. But yeah, lost 30-27 to the Panthers. And yeah, it's gonna be an interesting off season. I'm already calling it off season because yeah, the season's a wrap. I think after 5 consecutive losses is tough. But elsewhere around the league, like I said, the Panthers are a surprise team. I think they're a half game back now of the Bucks in the South. They've been looking nice. Obviously, the Colts have been the shocker. Them and the Patriots leading in the AFC. Denver has been looking really good. Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore trying to fight back and get themselves get footing back in their respective divisions and kind of fall claw for playoff positioning. Like I said, because Drake May, I think, is top MVP candidate outside of maybe Jonathan Taylor too, outside in Indiana, obviously. With the Bucks, Baker Mayfield has been looking nice, but I think it's been a fun season, definitely in the NFL. Outside for me as a Falcons fan, it's been atrocious, but outside of that, it's been a fun season. I think it's gonna be a fun close to the season. As teams jostle and fight for playoff positioning, and can we see teams like the Colts and the Patriots finish strong, and the Broncos finishing strong as well. So we'll see across the league. Because it has been very interesting and very surprising. I think in the NFC has just been consistent with the Eagles and the Lions. Lions looking as dominant as ever. Actually, both teams play against each other tonight, so that should be a fun one for Sunday Night Football. But yeah, it's gonna be obviously it's over for my Falcons, but for the remainder of the league, I think it's gonna be a fun finish. And especially heading into the playoffs, and as we get closer to the playoffs, and obviously come Super Bowl time. So definitely gonna keep tabs there. And then obviously gonna kind of jump into top four in the sense of my favorite album currently right now. Dang, it's been a while. Like I said, so I gotta think. Been listening to a lot of like different sounds and different music. LANY's album was tough. I did really like that. I think I might have mentioned that a while back. Listen to Wale's new album. That really enjoying that. That's been a consistent rotation right now. Um, but honestly, just been listening to like a bunch of different sounds on overall, and like consistent of my heavy rotation mix. Listening to a lot of the curated playlists from Apple Music, and that the personal ones like the Get Up mix, the Chill mix, the Energy one, or I guess that's the Get Up mix, the Chill one, oh, and the Favorites mix, and obviously like the heavy rotation mix, and just mixing in a few different albums here and there throughout. And then favorite show I've been watching. Hmm. Dang, what have I been watching that's probably been a favorite of late? Honestly, just been watching a lot of my, feel good shows, 911, The Neighborhood, FBI, those shows are back. Loot, The Last Frontier on Apple TV is a good show. I like that. Slow Horses finished that. That was a real good season. What else have I been watching that's really caught my eye? I think that's all the notable shows of late that I've kind of been watching. And then what do I currently have going on? Currently out in LA. Excited heading to the Lakers game on Tuesday. Against the Jazz. Hopefully LeBron makes his debut. I'm very excited for that. Hopefully LeBron makes his debut. But of course, just to go to a Lakers game in LA and being crypto, definitely surreal. Definitely, something I'm excited for. And excited, enjoy and take in the game and the atmosphere. Yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's against the Jazz. Not stressed about that. I'm hoping LeBron makes the debut. Obviously, get to see AR, Luca, Adutero, Laravia, Rui. Hopefully, Rui will be healthy by then too. maybe Marcus Smart will too. I think because Marcus had I think it was like a viral infection. That's why he was out the other night. But hopefully, we'll look good and we'll be, like I said, really hoping LeBron will play, making his season debut. That would be great. And then, uh, what am I looking forward to? Just continue to build, and as I say, build in the sense of not only building myself up, but also kind of taking in things, kind of that power of observability, whether this brief vacation out in LA, and building on what I can about myself throughout this little weekend, little getaway, and then just looking forward to obviously more, uh got a exciting work trip, at the tail end of November that I'm excited uh to help out and go be a part of. And then just closing out the remainder of the year strong. Definitely excited for that, and continue to build, as I said, relationships, healthy friendships, and continue to grow and be a better version of myself. And as always, like I said, I know it's been a while. I've said it repeatedly throughout this episode. But thank you all for constantly listening in on me ramble. And as always, until the next time, uh thank you for listening in to another episode of honest conversations with Mo Love podcast. And of course, until the next time, peace.